Welcome to the Businesstalk podcast. I am your host Deepak from India. Today we have the privilege of welcoming Dr. Joshua Gans as our distinguished guest on the podcast. Dr. Joshua Gans is the Jeffrey S. Cole Chair of Technical Innovation and Entrepreneurship and a Professor of Strategic Management at the Rotman School of Management, University of Toronto. He also serves as Chief Economist at the Creative Destruction Lab and is a co-founder of All Day TA. Dr. Gans holds honorary appointments in the Department of Economics and Munk School, University of Toronto, and Melbourne Business School. An economist specializing in innovation, entrepreneurship, and business strategy, Dr. Joshua examines how firms and markets respond to technological change. His work spans major shifts in the modern economy with particular focus on artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and digital platforms. Professor Gans is affiliated with the National Bureau of Economic Research and a range of leading research institutes, including the Squats Reisman Institute, the Acceleration Consortium, the E61 Institute, and the Lohan Academy. His books include Prediction Machines and Power and Prediction, which translate the economics of AI into practical insights for leaders and policymakers. He is a fellow of the Academy of Social Sciences in Australia and the Royal Society of Canada. In today's episode, Dr. Joshua Gans discusses key insights from his latest book, The Microeconomics of Artificial Intelligence. It's a pleasure to have him with us. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Joshua Gans. Professor Gans, thank you for joining us. It's a true honor to have you on Business Talk today.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Professor, you opened the book with science fiction author Ted Chiang's suggestion that AI should really be called instant applied statistics. Why did you choose to frame the entire book around AI as a prediction technology rather than an automation technology? And how does that single reframe change the conclusions economists reach?
Well, the reason we define in the book and my other work as AI as a prediction machine is because all of the current advances in AI, and I mean all of them, are really just advances in computational statistics. They are ways of improving the prediction and reducing the cost of prediction and increasing its quality over a wide variety of domains. And so, the term artificial intelligence gets applied to it and makes it, I guess, more interesting. But really what's going under the hood is basic statistics, but it's just overwhelmingly good at what it's doing, which has the potential to change a lot of things.
Professor, one of the book's most powerful ideas is that every decision has two ingredients, prediction and judgment, and that AI can only supply the first. Can you walk us through a real world example where better AI prediction actually increases the demand for human judgment rather than replacing it?
Well, I think actually it does it in a lot of places when it comes down to it. The simple example in trying to distinguish between prediction and judgment and its roles that we often use is how you take information about what the weather is going to be like later in the day and how that informs a lot of your decisions of what to do now in terms of what to wear or whether to take an umbrella, all sorts of things depending on how extreme the prediction is. Just think about a world in the absence of that prediction. What you would have to do is you would either leave yourself open to the vagaries of the weather, or alternatively, you might carry a lot of things that you don't need to carry just in case the weather changes. So the prediction allows you to now think about what you're really carrying. Are you going to carry or not? And so allows you to really break down the problem and achieve more efficiency that way. And so it extracted to other areas. There are situations in which, simply because you have information now, it allows you to think of other trade-offs, and that's the judgment part. And we see it in being able to know how long it's going to get from going from A to B, given traffic information and other predictions like that, changes what you sort of need to plan throughout your whole day. And these are things you might not have even been able to think about because you might have had to judge the situation when you got there, when you arrived, or whatever like that. But now you can actually think about that and think about sequencing of events and things like that. So that involves a whole lot of preferences and trade-offs and considerations and options that have just opened up. And the only way to sort of navigate that is to know what you'd like to do in those different situations. And that comes from you.
Professor, you present a fascinating four-part taxonomy: replacement AI, augmentation AI, unreliable AI, and antagonistic AI. The idea of deliberately making AI less reliable or even antagonistic to motivate human effort is counterintuitive. How should a CEO or CTO think about choosing which type of AI is deployed inside their organization?
Well, the context of that part was thinking about AI that might be more automated. In other words, you already have some idea of how you want the AI to act in different situations, and you pre-program it. The problem is that, when I give you an AI that can do everything for you, you therefore don't do other stuff. Now, that may be fine, but what if it isn't? What if, for instance, when you're driving a car, what you want people to do is to pay attention still because the AI isn't 100% perfect. Well, if you make the AI as good as it can be, but people being people will still sort of take their eyes off the road and do other things. They did that without AI. And so you might, in that situation, if you can't get the perfect AI, actually want the AI to be a little less reliable, a little less even trustworthy, so that you can keep the user having their attention on the road and what is going on. And so that might carry over to a lot of situations. I mean, basically, the problem is that AI is going to make us comfortable. That's fine if the AI can 100% do the job. But in certain very high stakes areas, you still need the human to pay attention. And so you might have to design the AI that way. In many respects, this is probably a short-term problem and things that we'll see. But, during this cycle where we're seeing improvements of AI, but AI isn't perfect, we have to think about how we give people the right incentives to do their part of the job.
Professor, you argue that insurance and protection are economic substitutes for prediction. Does that mean industries that are heavily insured, like healthcare, finance, logistics, have a built-in resistance to adopting AI? And if so, how do they break through it?
Oh, I think there's a lot of issues that come from thinking about insurance. In reality, a lot of the things that are being insured are things that we can't actually just resolve with AI. And so there's residual uncertainty going on. But there are situations such as, with car insurance, we know that the quality of a person's driving ability and how much care they take impacts on the likelihood of accidents. And so already we're seeing AIs monitor people's driving behavior and adjust their premiums accordingly. Now, interestingly enough, that's, has some side effects for the insurance industry because that's reducing some uncertainty. It also reduces necessarily the need for the insurance as well. If I told you that the AI told you that you're a terrific driver and hardly ever going to get into an accident, you'd think differently about the amount of insurance you got compared to situations where you didn't even know that. So there can be subtle issues that occur from those sorts of things. I think we're still a ways off that being an issue of a disruption of the insurance industry in that way. I think it's there are a lot of other issues with insurance that sort of keep it going. So I think that's not going to quite happen that way. And in some situations, we might open ourselves up for more insurance because we might, because of AI, end up taking more risks than we otherwise would, which would be risks we might want to insure.
Professor, Chapter 7 introduces the idea of ship then shop, where better prediction could let companies send you products before you order them. What does this model tell us about how radically AI could recognize and reorganize supply chain and consumer behavior?
Well, we've already had statistics and prediction statistics reorganize supply chains. It's already at the heart of it. So AI can do that, may be able to open up even more options for that, and more options going all the way over the whole length of time between it, where a product is made and where it ends up. Um, the ship then shop idea was this thought experiment that we had. Is what if it is the case that an online retailer knew exactly what you wanted to purchase? Then why should they wait for you to go and visit a website and do the activities of shopping? Why not just ship it to your door? And that sort of thing could happen that way. That has been thought about. Amazon, I think, 10 years ago, actually has a patent on that idea called anticipatory shipping. But in order to make that work, the point was that you'd have to reorganize the entire supply chain or logistics and other things like that. So the notion was that in order to adopt AI, even if it was a terrific AI, a whole lot of other things need to change to really get the value out of that. Could that happen? Sure. Have we seen examples of that? Yes. I mean, even Spotify have taken this metaphor seriously, have been thinking about that in terms of how they serve up music and podcasts and other things to consumers without having them have to search for them. So we see it in places where the logistical difficulties are not hard. So, we could see some different business models and different ways of doing stuff. The point of the example was to think about how would you think through that? And the way you think through that is you say, what are we uncertain about now? What happens if tomorrow we became certain about it? What would the world look like?
Professor, you devote an entire chapter to the possibility that AI pricing algorithms could learn to collude without being explicitly programmed to do so, using Q-learning. How real is this risk today? And what can regulators or platforms designers do about it?
Well, it's hard to know. The interesting thing about that sort of collusion is that it seemed to fall outside of existing laws, which required different parties to come to an explicit and clear agreement. Whereas if you just program a computer to do your pricing and they happen to work out how to collude with other computers, is that actually collusion? Because it's just them maximizing profits. And that's an issue for people as well, but it's sort of the AI aspect made it quite stark. I actually don't think that this is going to be a huge issue. I think that's a theoretical possibility, but I think actually the evidence has shown that actually being able to sustain collusion requires you to again have AIs that don't know enough. But the problem is that my I have an incentive for my AI to know more than your AI, even if it undermines collusion. So I'm at the moment skeptical about whether this is going to be a real issue associated with it. Certainly not price collusion. I think there are probably other things the AIs might end up colluding about, but that would be a whole different matter.
Professor, you describe a data feedback loop where most users generate more data, which improves AI predictions, which attracts more users. Is this loop an inevitable part to monopoly in AI markets, or are there natural economic forces that break it?
Well, that loop has been talked about for a long time, and what's interesting about it is a theoretical possibility, and of course, it's a economy of scale, so it could lead to very large firms dominating things. The big issue has been that especially with the more recent generative AI, is that sort of feedback loop isn't there. And it's the current problem with it. And in fact, the more data of a personalized nature and other things you feed the AI, the worse it gets. So currently, that flywheel possibility isn't really challenging us. It's always been a sort of theoretical possibility, and you can see how it could arise. But I think that it's still very much an open question whether this will be a practical concern or not.
Dr. Joshua, your chapter on intellectual property wrestles with whether AI generated books, art, or music deserve copyright protection, and if so, who the author is. What does your economic model suggest is the welfare maximizing policy here?
Well, I think it's a challenging issue. There are trade-offs with this policy. You know, we want to be able to use a lot of information and books and language and other things to train our models. But we don't necessarily do that with an end to actually causing the business interests of the authors to actually decline. It might be an extra bit of reason why they're valuable, but it's not a reason for their, to have a harm book sales and other things like that, because unless the AI is just copying the book and telling other people about it, but that's not what's going on. It doesn't seem to be what's going on. So in that environment, the sort of efficient thing to do would be to allow as much to be trained by AI as possible, because it's not going to actually diminishing incentives beyond what we had before to produce things. But there are a couple of wrinkles to that. The first issue is there could be some domains at which there is a business interest. This can happen in sort of violation of trademarks and stuff like that. So there could be a problem there. Although we have to be careful to distinguish between that and normal competition. If an AI allows a lot of other people to write books or draw pictures and stuff like that, and that competes with existing artists, that's not copyright violation, that's just competition. The second issue that comes up is, of course, we may want our creative people to be writing in a way that improves the AI. And so, in order to direct that activity, the question is, how should that occur? The issue is, of course, if people can just steal your content, you have no incentive to do that. But at the same time, that is a problem for the people who are training those AIs, so that they will want to establish property rights and paths to markets and contracts and other things to make that happen. So in the end, there's a lot of discussion about this because the law seemed to be challenged by this, and also the practices of building the large language models were very aggressive on procuring that training data. But when it comes down to it, the marginal book is not of much value to the training data set. And also there's probably I don't believe there's any evidence that it's led to any commercial harm. So it would be good to get the parameters of copyright law understood and legislated for the AI age, but I'm not sure that there's any great harm going on in this apart from the uncertainty itself in this current era.
Professor, you model the decision to regulate AI as a choice between reversible and irreversible adoption under uncertainty. Given that framework, was the 2023 open letter calling for a 6-month pause on AI training economically justified, or does the math suggest a different approach?
Well, the question of a pause and other things like that, or any other means of going slow, is what are we going to obtain in terms of learning by doing that? If the idea is to pause it completely so we don't use the AI at all, we're not going to learn anything. So the issue is that you may not want AI to be completely released and free to do all things until we've learned some stuff. But at the same time, the dilemma is that you need it to do some things in some places so you can learn what those harms of AI. Otherwise, we're just speculating. And it's very costly just to speculate and then to write policies on this basis when we've got actually measured massive increases in productivity going on from the use of AI. I think that debate is largely moot at the moment. I don't think at the moment there's any traction for the slowing down of AI. I think actually we've slowed down AI adoption a lot just because we tend to adopt things slowly. So I'm not as concerned about that. But then at any given time, the quid pro quo of that is that you have to have a regular set of regulators who are monitoring the situation and who, if those harms do become visible, are willing to act. And that's the essential problem that we have all the time, is that often our governments and regulators are too slow to react to harms that emerge. Sometimes they preempt them by legislating them even if they do or do not exist, in which case we never find out. Other times they're too slow to react. So there are some real issues there.
Professor Joshua, I would like to conclude this episode with one last question. In the final chapter, you explore how AI-powered platforms can manipulate behavior through addiction mechanics and even reshape social media norms via social scoring. Where do you draw the economic line between beneficial personalization and harmful manipulation?
Oh, that's a very difficult question, which is precisely why it was the last chapter of the book. We do not know at the moment. There are some reasons to be concerned that AI may be manipulative, but at the same time, um, how it would actually do so is more imaginative, our imaginations of what it might do than reality. Obviously people can be influenced by the information presented to them, and AI can change that quite a bit. And that's a challenge that we've had in the information age. And maybe AI will make that worse, but maybe it could also make it better as well. We're in this world of, well, this is a good thing to be aware of and to worry about and to think about and to watch for. There are no answers at the moment what to do about it.
Thank you, Professor Joshua, for such a thoughtful and generously detailed conversation today. Your insights help us move beyond headlines and into the underlying logic, how AI reshapes decision making, incentives, and market outcomes, and why that matters for leaders, researchers, and policymakers. I especially appreciated the way you connected big ideas to clear microeconomic foundations, while still keeping an eye on real-world implications from adoption and organizational design to competition, data, and regulation. It's a rare to get that combination of rigor and practical relevance in one discussion. On behalf of our listeners, Business Talk, thank you again for your time and clarity. We look forward to following your ongoing work, and we hope to welcome you back soon for a deeper dive into the next set of questions this field is already raising. Thank you once again.
Thank you.